Maybe sunlight really is the best disinfectant. And I don't know much more than you sent me a link to this article, Zachary. Sunlight inactivates coronavirus 8 times faster than predicted. We need to know why. And that links to this paper, UVB radiation alone may not explain sunlight inactivation of SARS-CoV-2, a paper that came out actually in February of this year that finds that basically the theoretical underpinnings for why it was thought that SARS-CoV-2 was not transmitting was not transmitting and was not therefore manifesting as COVID in people who were outdoors was largely based on a model around UVC, I think, deactivating the virus, but the empirical evidence that's come in since those early theoretical predictions says actually, no, there's got to be a lot more going on. This virus is just unable to persist out in sunlight for very long at all. And we're not going to go inside baseball here on all of the reasons, all of the disconnects, but it's fabulous news. Like, there is not a variant yet that we have heard of SARS-CoV-2 for which this is not true. That is to say, which does not deactivate in sunlight, which means that the advice that we've been giving from the very beginning, go outside, spend time outside, and you do not need to wear a mask outside unless you're jammed together, holds, and is even it's important for mental health, it's important for physical health, it's important at just about every level possible.
Yes, and so I want to recap a little bit about what we've said. SARS-CoV-2 does not appear to transmit outdoors. That could be a purely UV light or sunlight more generally based phenomenon, but it isn't. It doesn't appear to transmit outdoors at night either, right? So that's really important. What that means is that you've got at least 2 mechanisms, and that what it results in is, at least for the time being, that we have a loophole in the constraints that come from SARS-CoV-2, especially when the weather is hospitable and meeting outdoors as possible. And we should be taking full advantage of that. You wanted to say something.
Well, hold on. One obvious second explanation, and I suspect there will be more than 2, is that it is well understood that this, like, I don't know, maybe all, but certainly many, and I think most, viruses and other pathogens are effectively density dependent. And so outside, where there is airflow and where you're constantly blowing away boundary layers, and the virus is heading up into the atmosphere as opposed to staying in the room where you are, is going to be effective at effectively dispersing the virus.
Well, we know this to be the case. The question is that the mechanism that makes night safe outdoors? It is unlikely that that is completely the explanation.
I said one clear hypothesis that I would say I can't imagine that this isn't true. I just wanted to name the 2 that we definitely know are true.
Right. We know that the volume and airflow reduces the density of particles that one interacts with, and that has a highly protective effect. And we know that UV light disables the virus, and maybe sunlight does so more generally than just its UV component. Why is an interesting question. Whether this interacts with the question of where SARS-CoV-2 came from. If it was laboratory in origin, obviously laboratories are not drenched in sunlight. They are drenched in artificial light. Of course, the fact that the virus ultimately comes from bats, whether it was modified in the lab or not, does suggest it would not interact terribly frequently in daylight, as bats are all nocturnal. So anyway, there's a lot of questions that could be addressed. But could it evolve to be transmitted outdoors? It could. So we should be cautious outdoors, though not overly so. But for the moment, it is apparently the answer to how to keep things functional during a time when you can't afford to do certain normal things, like go to a concert. So in any case, it is an important finding, and it is important for us to continue to track whether or not that changes. But the fact that no variant yet has figured out how to transmit outdoors is great news.
It sure is.